In today's video, I'm taking the junk journal I made from scrapbook paper and adding interactive elements using the leftovers from the collection pack. When I say interactive elements, I mean the pieces that move, open, hold something, or create another layer on the page. Pockets, flips, tuck spots, belly bands, fold outs, and things like that. This is video 3 in my junk journal starter series using a scrapbook collection pack. If you missed the first 2 videos, I'll link the full playlist here and in the description. Today is not about fully decorating every page. We'll make a few basic pockets, a corner tuck, a belly band, hinged flip cards, paper clipped fold outs, and a slant pocket with flaps and a waterfall. These are the pieces that will give the junk journal more room for photos, journaling, notes, and the little bits you might want to save. And we're still keeping this beginner friendly. I'm not pulling in envelopes, file folders, library pockets, or a bunch of extra supplies. The goal is to show what you can do with the leftover paper, the cut apart sheets, stickers, and the scraps. Also, a big welcome to all the new subscribers. I honestly didn't realize there would be this much interest in junk journals made with regular scrapbook supplies, but I love that so many of you are wanting to try this. I'll definitely be making more projects like this. Because there has been so much interest, I will continue working on this journal on camera so that you can see how I combine scrapbooking with junk journaling in these journals. I have other videos planned for May, but I can work on these spreads over the summer. Before we get into the pages, a quick note on the spine. I'm leaving this one alone. I actually like seeing all of the colors and the patterns stacked together. And since this series is about keeping junk journals approachable, I don't want to add a spine just because I feel like I'm supposed to. In a future project, we can absolutely talk about fabric, lace, paper spine covers, and all of that. But for this journal, the exposed spine works just fine for me, so I'm leaving it alone. So here's my first real life moment in this video. My phone stopped recording and I had no idea. So we're jumping in mid pocket. I skipped over the first spread in the journal and we'll come back to that at the end. For this page, I'm adding stacked side pockets on the left side of the page. This green paper was supposed to be the hinges back in video 1 before I cut it wrong because it seems like every project needs a sacrifice of some sort, but it still works perfectly as a pocket, so I'm using it. Since I have the scalloped edges on the right side, I thought I would bring that over to the left side too. I cut the red dot paper down to a pocket and used my scallop punch on the edge. For the red polka dot pocket, I'm only gluing the top and the bottom edges. I'm leaving the side near the hinge open so that this pocket can run deeper across the page. Now, that pocket can hold larger journaling cards or photos. When I glue down my pockets, I'm making sure to add them to the left of the center fold line. You want to make sure that the page still turns and the pocket did not cover the fold line. And this looks good. The page still turns. For now, that's all I'm going to do here. If you wanted, you could punch a thumb notch in the green pocket to show that it is a pocket. I'll show that on other pockets later in the video. For this page, I created simple layered pockets to go along the bottom of the pages. I cut 2-inch strips from the leftover yellow gingham paper and 2-inch strips from the leftover solid cardstock. I punched the edge of the solid cardstock to repeat that same scallop detail. The length of both pockets is 5.5 inches. I made them smaller so as not to cover up the scallops along the border. So I realize that pockets are not the flashiest thing in junk journaling, but they are the one thing I actually use all the time. Pretty is nice, but if the journal can't hold anything, it's not that useful. And this background is perfect for pockets. It's not good journaling paper, but the floral will be a nice background for anything I tuck here. I also thought I'd mention that I'm trying to ink the edges as I go along, but not for every single piece. I'm trying to be consistent and ink the edges of all of the biggest pieces. On this spread, I'm using one of the cards from the cut apart sheet and attaching it with a hinge. So far, the hinges we've used have attached two papers together. This hinge will be a little bit different and attach a card as a flip up to a page. I trimmed a strip from leftover cardstock. It measures 2 inches by 4 inches, and I'm just folding it in half and giving it a good crease with my bone folder. Before I attach it, I need to miter the corners. If you've never heard that term in paper crafting, it just means I'm going to snip off the corners at an angle with my scissors. This step isn't terribly important for this particular hinge, but anytime paper folds over itself, there can be resistance. Mitering corners like this removes some of the extra paper bulk and helps the paper fold better. I'm not measuring here. This does not need to be an exact measured thing. I'm just simply snipping off the corners. Just like I did with the other hinges, I like to attach these one side at a time. With Fabri-Tac, I'm adding glue on the back side of the hinge and this will attach to the card. When I attach the hinge, I'm just making sure that the corners align along the top of the card and I'm pressing the hinge into the paper. This hinge is adding a flip. Flips can go up, go to the right or the left, or flip down. I can use the backside for whatever I need for the spread when I create the page. It could be extra journaling space, I could add a photo, and if I don't need it for anything else, I could glue on another card from the cut apart sheet and have a place for more embellishing. Now I'll add glue to the other side of the hinge. I probably made my hinge a bit wider than it needs to be, but I wanted it to show up on camera. It all depends on what you're attaching. The heavier the item, the wider the hinge should be. For lightweight things, you could cut a strip that is 1 inch to 1.5 inches wide. When you fold the hinge in half, each side would be 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch and take up less space on the page. Press the hinge into the top of the page, and now this card will flip up. I like to think of interactive elements as extra real estate. Scrapbook pages are usually 12 by 12, so we're used to having more room. Junk journal pages are smaller, so we need more places to put all of the photos, the journaling, and the ephemera without needing a big page. On this next spread, I'm building a corner tuck spot and using a 3 by 4 card as the base. When you're cutting apart these sheets, try to keep larger sections together when you can. The backside is usually patterned paper, and bigger pieces are easier to turn into pockets or tuck spots. The bigger the pieces, the better the chance you'll have to use it. I inked around the edges of the card and now I'm going to glue it down by adding glue to just the left edge and the bottom edge. That will leave space behind the card so that something can be tucked behind. This is called a tuck spot. Unlike a closed pocket where you slide something so it's not as visible, anything you put in a tuck spot is visible and easily accessible. I don't like how that card looks like it's hanging out by itself. I'm going to come back to that spot after I add a belly band to the other side of the page. I'm grabbing the page that has the 4 by 4 cut aparts. I noticed on the back side there is this flower print with the flowers in tidy rows. A row of this paper will be perfect for a belly band, but I also want to use some of the 4 by 4 cards on the other side. Just ignore all of my sticky notes. I have a basic plan for these interactive elements, and I wanted to make sure I don't accidentally cut something I need. I don't need to use the two cards on the upper right side, so that is where I can cut a strip for flowers to use as the belly band. I only need my strip to be about 6 inches wide, so this spot has plenty of room. On the left side of these 4x4 cards, I'm using two of the other cards, so I'm going to be careful when I cut this out. I want to keep those two cards intact. I'm only cutting out these two cards on the upper right and the middle. I use these cards sometimes in my scrapbook pages, but maybe just one on a full layout. More often than not, I just pass them by, especially if I was only buying a few papers from any one collection. But in junk journaling, I use these cards all the time. They are so easy to tuck into pockets or to add to a page when you just want a little bit of embellishment. The small size of the cards can make a big impact on a journal page. So now I'm trimming off a strip of flowers and we'll turn this into a belly band. So, what's a belly band good for? It gives you a place to tuck something behind, and the band will keep it to the page. For instance, if I had a large page that I had journaled on and folded it in half or thirds, I could add it behind the belly band. If I had a brochure of some kind, I could slip it in there. You just don't want to add anything too heavy because the band will only hold so much. It's just another kind of element you can add to your journal. Belly bands can go horizontally across the page or vertically down the page, and you can get super creative with them. I've made them out of junk mail envelopes by cutting off a strip with the address window. I've made a row of clustered flowers and butterflies and used that as a belly band. I've used a snippet roll down a page. And just like that, I could absolutely wander off into the weeds. Snippet rolls and dramatic belly bands are a conversation for another day and some future project. Let me get back on task here. When you glue the belly band to the page, just add glue at the edge of both sides of the strip so you can still slip things behind it. I'm backtracking now and cutting out a few smaller pieces from this cut apart sheet to cluster with that 3x4 card. That card felt off balance floating on the page all alone. When I add these additional cards, I'm only adding glue to the left edge and the bottom edge. The pig will overlap the 3x4 card on the left just a bit, and the same with the sunflower. This will remain a tuck spot because I'm not gluing down the entire backside of the cards. I also grabbed the sticker sheet and found a phrase that says happy day and added that to the journaling card. And I'll leave the rest of the page alone. I don't decorate this early because I know myself. I'll use up all the space and then have nowhere to put the actual memories. Next, I cut out two more of the 4x4 cards, keeping them attached. I just folded this in half where the cards joined together and inked around the edges. I'm going to place this right over the belly band. These cards are perfect to add a couple of photos and some journaling. And there's still some room to slip something else behind the belly band. What will happen though is that the flowers on the inside of this folded card are upside down. I will need to add cardstock mats or other pattern papers or maybe other 4x4 cards to cover that up. Now, when you turn this card on the back, you can see the word hello is upside down because of how I folded the card. I need to fix that. The pattern paper frame around the card looks fine. There's no direction to the floral pattern. I think this rolling pin sticker is going to work. One of the phrase stickers would work just as well. I'm skipping over another spread. I didn't want to add something to every single page in the journal quite yet. Here, I cut out two more of the 4x4 cards, kept them attached, and this time these will hang over the top of a page. I want this red gingham background with the sunflowers to hang on this side. This card will help bring red over to this side of the page. On this side, you can see that the image on the card is upside down. For this one, I'll take another 4x4 card and cover that up. Now, Could you just cut each card separately and use them on the pages by themselves? Sure, you could do that. But by keeping them together, they get to be another interactive element, and that's what makes this more like a junk journal. The card can come off the page, and inside I can add photos or use it for more journaling space. I want this card to be a tad smaller than 4 by 4 so that the card underneath will mat this card. I'm just checking to make sure I like how much I trimmed off and that the card is still covering up the image underneath. Scrapbook me would have absolutely put this up on foam tape. I was always looking to add depth to my pages because everything was going behind a page protector. Junk journal me won't be doing that. I try to keep most things flat because this book is going to bulk up fast enough once I start adding photos, journaling, and extras. I am adding the glue to the back of the card to just 3 edges, not the whole card. I'm going to keep the top open so that this could be used as another pocket to tuck a tag or a small journal card. Anytime you add layers, ask yourself if one of the layers could be a pocket. That is one of the things that separates scrapbooks from junk journals. In junk journals, the layers can add more tucking places. And as soon as I add this down, I realized I really should have inked around the edges first. That's when wet glue saves you. I still have time to pick it up and add the ink. The ink will give the edges a bit of definition and interest. And there's still room to further embellish when I come back to the spread. The way I'm going to attach the card to my journal is with one of these large gold paper clips from American Crafts. And paper clips like these give you a great place to add ribbon, lace, die cuts, flowers, and they look really fun over the top and the sides of a journal. This could give me more tucking space if I need it. And here's a reminder that there's a pocket behind the card where I could add a tag. And the paper clip can go at an angle, and that will hold this fold over card to the page. For this page, I wanted to show you that you could use a large pocket to cover part of a hinge if the hinge pattern feels too busy or you just don't love how it looks. I'm making a slant pocket with 1/2 inch flaps on the side and the bottom. The flaps give the pocket a little extra room, which is helpful if you want to tuck in something thicker. Full disclosure, I cut this piece a little shorter than I meant to. If I wanted my pocket to run the full length of the page with the flaps, I should have cut it at 8.5 inches. But it still works, and honestly, it's a good reminder that these pockets can be whatever size fits your page. But I'm still going to show how the flaps work in case you haven't made them before. I'm adding score lines to create the flaps. I'm scoring at 1/2 inch on both the long side and the short side of my pocket. Since the paper is folding over itself, I need to do a little extra trimming. Cutting this small square where the flaps intersect removes bulk so the flaps don't overlap each other. I just do this with scissors, no need to use the trimmer for this. Then I'm going to miter the corners of each flap the way I did earlier with the other hinge. And just cut off the corners a bit at an angle to remove a little bit of the paper. This will help the flaps fold over without overlapping. Next, I will bring my trimmer back and cut a slant into the pocket. I'm not measuring, there's no specific angle to do this, I'm just eyeballing it. I'll set aside that scrap piece I'm cutting here because that could be used as a corner tuck somewhere in the journal. Now I can glue down the pocket. I'm folding the flaps over and adding glue just to the flaps. And this is where I realized that the pocket is not going to be the full length of the page because I added those flaps. I like using flaps because then the pocket is roomier and can accommodate larger things. If you don't need the extra space or don't care about having the flaps, you will lose a little bit of the pocket space. Where the glue attaches on the side and the bottom, it's going to make the pocket a little smaller and less roomy. If you wanted to tuck a folio or a small journal in the pocket, you'd want the extra room and should use the flaps. If you just want to use the pocket for a photo or a journaling card or a postcard, you can just glue the pocket to the page without the flaps. On this next page, I'm going to add two 6x4 cards just like I did with the 4x4 cards. I'll cut two cards together. We'll fold this in half and attach to the side of the page with another paper clip. I'm repeating the same elements, but I wanted to show that these can go over the top or over the sides. You do not need to use every idea in one journal. Pick the ones that make sense for your pages. And good news, the sunflower pattern on the back is going in the right direction, so I don't have to worry about covering that up. On this side of the 6x4 cards, I wasn't crazy about that large text or the phrase on the card. So I found a 3x4 card from the cut apart sheet that had strawberries. So I'm going to cover over what I don't like. I love a lot of the artwork and the text on these cards, but there's always one or two that I just don't care for. This 3x4 card did not fully cover the text, so I found some stickers on the sticker sheet to add on top. I like how the green background adds a nice frame around this card. And this is a great way to repeat the strawberries and bring them over to the left side of this spread. I'm skipping over a couple more spreads, and now I'm working on the last page of my journal. On this page, I'm adding a flip card on the right side of the spread. I'm going to use another flap, which works exactly the same way as a hinge. A hinge is an extra piece that attaches something, and a flap is part of whatever you are attaching. I trimmed down my page to 8 inches tall by 4 inches wide. I added a score line at a half an inch for the flap, and now I'm gluing the flap down to the edge of the right page. For this flip out card, I also wanted to add a couple of pockets with some of the leftover scraps. I cut two pockets that are 2 inches tall by 3.5 inches wide. These will get glued directly to the flip page. Here, I grabbed my circle punch so I could add thumb notches at the top of each pocket. And by the way, you can do that to any pocket. The thumb notch tells you, or whoever might be looking through your journal, that this spot is a pocket. It's just a little detail you can add if you want. It's not necessary if you don't have a circle punch like this. What can go in these pockets? Any kind of small ephemera, tags, tickets, small cards, or notes. I also like to add die cuts like flowers or have butterflies peeking out. They can be functional, but also pretty. And just like the rest of the journal, I'm not going to do anything else with these pages until I work on the journal spreads in the future. And now I'm back on the first page of the journal. This is a good spot for waterfall cards. It's a great way to use up some of the scraps you've created making everything else. I'm cutting down a few leftovers that I haven't used yet to 4x4 squares. I'll show you a few here to get started. I currently have a big mess on my desk, but after I turn the camera off, I will go through all the scraps and find enough pieces to have waterfall cards all the way down the page. All of the cards will attach the same way, and I have already shown this on other interactive elements today, so this won't be new. I'm pulling out my scoreboard once again to add 1/2 inch score lines to each card. I'll fold the cards on the score line to create 1/2 inch folds. I will attach each card to the page using that fold. In this case, we don't need to miter the corners because each card will line up directly under each flap. It's easier to line them up with the full flap. I'm just looking to see exactly where I want to add my cards. I'll center the first one just by eyeballing it. You can get out a ruler if you want to make sure it's centered. For me, this is just fine. Whatever card you put down first will be the only card you see in full. I'm going to start with the green floral card, then add the white multicolor print next, followed by the white daisies on the pink background. And I just found another scrap in that yellow floral that I can add later. There's still plenty of scrap pieces I can use to make more waterfall cards, even if I have to repeat a few of the same pattern. Using the stripes on the paper in the background as a guide, I'm gluing down this first flap. Once that is in place, I'll do the same thing with the next card. Add glue and line it up directly under the flap of the first card. Give it a good press to make sure the glue is pushing into the paper fibers. And I'll repeat with the third card. So that's where I'm stopping for today. I'm going to keep working on this journal over the summer so you can see how I actually use these pages once I start adding photos, journaling, and embellishments. The Junk Journal Starter Series will also continue with more supply categories. Later this summer, we'll move into digital print at home supplies. And in the fall, we'll work with vintage and thrifted supplies. And then I'd like to bring everything together in one final journal using a mix of all of the categories. Thank you so much for crafting with me today, and I'll see you in the next video.